Hi everybody, it's meteorologist Joe Cioffi here at coming up on 9:15 Eastern Time as we continue to see this coastal storm bringing moderate to heavy snow over areas from New Jersey to New York City and Long Island. Not so much to the areas north of there, based on what we're looking at. This has been a very sort of haphazard event, dealing with the fact that we had snow falling during the daytime. In some places it fell hard enough where it accumulated, in other places it did not. We had some sleet in the mix too that made things rather complicated this morning. Now we're getting bands coming in from off the ocean as the storm just sits off the Delaware coast. It's not moving very fast, if at all, and that's going to be like that for the next 3 or 4 hours before we start to see maybe a little bit of eastward progress to get this thing out of the way. Let me bring up the regional radar here for you, and you can take a good look at what's happening. All afternoon long, we've been seeing the radar echoes. Normally around here, things move west to east or southwest to northeast or maybe even south to north, but when you've got a storm circulating offshore and not moving, everything kind of backs in from southeast to northwest. And if you look closely on the radar in the darker greens here, that is heavy snow that is backing northwestward. It's come into Long Island. It's also come into coastal Connecticut and just touching the southern areas of the Hudson Valley. But we've got a band of very heavy snow, and this has been going on for hours in the coastal counties of New Jersey, Monmouth and Ocean counties. The back edge is getting eaten away a little bit in southwest Jersey and in southeastern PA. The snow is beginning to end there, and you know there were many areas that got 1 foot plus west of Philadelphia. Generally, it looked like most areas in southeastern Pennsylvania getting about 5 to 10 inches. I haven't seen what the final amounts are. I'm sure they're going to be higher. Those are from the last reports that were around 7 o'clock. But as far as New Jersey is concerned, we've seen anywhere from 4 to 8 inches in some places, and it's for a good chunk of the state, particularly south of Route 78 and into the coastal counties. It's going to snow for a good part of the night, and on Long Island, even though I had my doubts earlier because we had this break in these bands, and it just sat there like that for a while during this afternoon. It is going to be snowing on Long Island for the night, and Long Island snow amounts vary. There's as much as half a foot or more on the ground in parts of western Suffolk and into Nassau County, less as you go to the east, but the east will make up for it during the nighttime hours as this system, once it starts moving to further east, and some of these heavier snow bands that back in over eastern Long Island and into southern Connecticut. Not too much has been happening in southeastern Massachusetts. We've had some patches of snow there going on, but still waiting for the snow that'll come there in those areas later on tonight and into tomorrow morning. This is, as I said, been just a really haphazard system. Let's I want to bring up that surface map with the satellite in the background. And this is from 5:20 this afternoon. And remember, we talked about all the moving parts that we had with this, and we can see how it was analyzed. That you've got all these low centers that represent all the energy that's around. The lead low from overnight and late yesterday afternoon to overnight, that has run out to the east. Then you have the upper air support dropping down with another coastal low developing, sitting off the Delaware coast. That's going to be the main low. And then you have the low that's being the parent low that reflects the upper air energy that runs back all the way through the Great Lakes, the eastern Great Lakes, down into Ohio, Kentucky, and on up in through West Virginia and Virginia. Meanwhile, I don't want to leave this out. We do have a storm coming into the west. And you can see how complex it is over there. You're getting low pressure moving in from the Pacific with waves of heavy rain that they are going to be dealing with overnight and into Thursday. So busy on both coasts. It's another instance where we have storms on both coasts and quiet weather in the middle. My colleague Joe Rayo has moved in. Are you going to be taping something?
Yeah.
All right. So let me know when you're ready to start, and I will wrap this up. So let me bring this up to speed here. And
you should show them how we do.
Well, then why not? Go ahead. Let me hang on. Why don't we do that? So you can watch Joe.
Yeah, well, we're doing he's doing a live
tape away.
Facebook, not Facebook. YouTube.
YouTube.
YouTube. And so, but he may actually air this.
Well, when you're ready, you go ahead, Joe.
Yeah, I'm all set. Yes, sir.
We're going to take a break here.
Thank you very much, Brian. And as of mid or late evening, let's check out some of the snow totals that we picked up. Actually, the first one, I'm cheating a little bit. It's not the Hudson Valley. It's actually in the Bronx, Morris Park. They have almost 6.5 inches at their last measurement. White Plains, Westchester Airport, 4.5 inches. Armonk, 4. New Rochelle, 3.5. And a lowly 1/2 inch at Greenwood Lake over in Orange County. As far as what we're expecting for the remainder of the night, I do believe that we're going to be seeing additional snowfalls of anywhere from an inch or two down toward New York City, getting a bit heavier as you go to the north and east. So much of the Hudson Valley may see anywhere from an additional 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 inches before the night is over. We still have a winter storm warning for Rockland and Westchester and a winter weather advisory for lighter snow amounts across Orange, Putnam, Dutchess County, Ulster, and Sullivan County. And don't forget, along the coast, high tide 2 to 3 in the morning, coastal flooding possible with tides running 2 to 3 feet above normal. Temperatures tonight generally in the low and mid 30s. And again, we'll have snow through the first part of the overnight, tapering off toward daybreak and leaving us with a moderate snow cover. More a bit later.
You got another one?
Yes.
That's how we do it, folks. That's how we weather people operate. Green screens.
I just want to tell all of you who are watching that I grew up watching Joe Cioffi. and that's I'm mimicking Joe right now. I learned everything I know doing in television from Joe.
Everything.
And I'm just waiting for the director, Ivan, our director.
Both of us, Fios 1 News. I'm in Fios 1 News, Long Island and New Jersey. Joe is on Fios 1 News, Hudson Valley. He's got another guest.
All right, Brian, as you can see behind me, we have quite a bit of, on the satellite radar composite, quite a bit of precipitation in the form of snow, and this is rotating around an upper level disturbance that is kind of helping to intensify this storm system offshore. We're not going to get rid of all of this snow until probably sometime between midnight and dawn, and there's still, even for those of you who have not picked up very much in the way of snowfall, still the threat of at least an inch or 2 or 3 or maybe even as much as 4 inches. So that's why winter weather advisories continue in places that have had hardly any snow so far: Ulster, Dutchess County, Putnam County, on into Orange County. But we do expect that for the next couple of days, clouds will have the upper hand, some pokes of sun tomorrow, again on Friday. An upper level disturbance may bring us a few harmless flurries before the end of the day on Friday. Tonight, the snow diminishing and ending slowly but surely after midnight. Northerly winds will gust to 30 miles per hour. Thankfully, the winds are nowhere near the ferocity of what we had in the previous nor'easters, so that plus the lighter snowfall should mean less of a risk of power outages, so he says. We have our fingers crossed. Temperatures tomorrow will be in the low and mid 40s, more clouds and sun, a gusty northwest wind. Again, from now through 8 a.m. on Thursday, an inch or 2 down toward the city, and maybe an additional couple of 3 inches for much of the rest of the Hudson Valley on top of what has already fallen. 3-day outlook, maybe a late flurry on Friday, mostly sunny for Saturday.
One more?
And one more. I feel honored. I'm doing a performance here. I almost feel like I'm Bette Midler.
Our audience is watching.
Thank you, Brian. And as you can see on the satellite radar composite, this brighter shade of white is indicative of some pretty good snowfall, and we're watching that very carefully. The storm system that has brought today's unsettled weather is now revving up offshore, but it's eventually going to move out to the north and to the east, and good riddance to it. And let's hope this is the last nor'easter of March. Tomorrow and Friday, since the storm will still be relatively close by, we'll probably have to deal with a lot of residual clouds. There'll be some breaks or pokes of sunshine, and temperatures both tomorrow and Friday, although still well below normal. My goodness, at this time of the year, it should only be in the lower 50s. We're not going to be anywhere near that, but we'll be in the 40s, which is a heck of a lot better than where we were today when we were stuck only in the 30s. The storm continuing to pull away, taking with it also the gusty, strong winds, and this hatched area that you see here on the map for Friday morning, that's a wave of upper level instability following in the path or in the trail of this nor'easter. That'll come on through during the day on Friday afternoon, kind of a ripple in the atmosphere which may induce a couple of snow showers or flurries before the end of the afternoon on Friday. Wouldn't it be lovely if that was the last time we saw flaky weather for the rest of this season? I don't want to say that. I may jinx it, but we'll see. Cloudy skies overnight, snow diminishing and ending after midnight. 30 to 33 will be the overnight low temperatures. Tomorrow, getting into the 40s, is better than today. 42 to 46, more clouds and sun, gusty northwest winds, unseasonably chilly. Again, with that area of snow that's still in place along the mid-Atlantic coast, from now through at least after midnight, watch out, we may put down an additional inch or two down here toward the city, 2 to 3 inches across parts of the Hudson Valley, heavier amounts to the north and east, but you know, it's pretty well over and done with, as I said, toward daybreak. Rest of the week and into the weekend gets better, and even early next week looks pretty darn nice. 52 on Tuesday. All right, so
we're good.
Yeah. No.
So that was interesting, folks. You got to see how we do it around here. That pretty much is it. You got something else?
Okay, I have to do that one more time, Joe.
Oh, he's got to do it again. He's not like one take Cioffi.
Brian, we're watching an area of enhanced snowfall along the immediate coastline. That's with an upper level disturbance merging with the offshore storm that has brought us the unsettled weather for your Wednesday. The storm is pulling away to the north and east. It'll continue to brush us with gusty winds overnight and even into part of tomorrow. But good riddance to the storm because it's pulling away and it will take the snow with it before daybreak. And then as it continues to move away on Friday, there'll be a trail of instability, kind of a ripple in the upper levels of the atmosphere passing through later on Friday that could develop into a couple of snow showers or flurries of no great concern. Overnight, 30 to 33, clouds, snow diminishing and ending sometime between midnight and dawn. For tomorrow, a lot of clouds, some pokes of sun, but temps will get into the 40s tomorrow. That'll feel warm compared to today, but that's still below normal. It should be in the low 50s at this time of the year. With that area of snow that we're tracking now through the overnight hours, we may pick up an additional inch or two down toward New York City, a couple, maybe even 3 inches for parts of the Hudson Valley, and that'll be on top of what has already fallen outside your doorway. As far as Friday, a late flurry, lots of sunshine for the weekend with temps in the 40s, mostly sunny Monday, Tuesday. Look at that, Tuesday and Wednesday, we may actually get into the 50s.
Now he's done.
Thank you.
You want to jump in with me? Or you got stuff to do?
I really don't have anything to do except I almost feel like I want to go to sleep now.
No, I know, me too. I hear you. It's been a tough day.
So,
just telling everybody how haphazard this storm has been with the fact that we had this stuff that was going on in the daytime. It was snowing in some spots, not in others, sleeting in some spots, not in others. Then in some spots it just stopped altogether.
I think the main concern, do you mind if I just turn my microphone off here? I think the main concern with a lot of people, a lot of parents, is the fact that they're upset that they said, well, the kids certainly could have gone to school today. And the one thing that we were talking about is the high sun angle, the treatment of the roads with this storm, and the fact that the roads were a lot more wet than white.
Right.
And that probably could have meant that school buses or parents on the roadways could have gotten the kids to school. But again, it was a tough call because we thought that in the afternoon hours the snow would be of a greater intensity and would have caused the roads to immediately become snow-covered, slick and slippery, and even just downright dangerous. But again, so late in the season, it was a tough call.
Oh yeah, no question. And now, of course, we're seeing. I showed everybody on the radar before. I don't know if you caught it, but the radar has been pretty loaded with the snow coming in from off the ocean.
Right.
The low center. You actually could see the low center of the Curla here, right here on the radar echoes. The low center is just sitting off the Delaware coast, and the bands of heavy snow now moving northwestward into Long Island, southern Connecticut. Might even get some out here if we get in the next hour or two, if this band survives. And they've been getting hit particularly hard in the coastal counties in New Jersey. Starting to see the back edge getting eaten away a little bit in southwest Jersey, but for the most part, for your area in the Hudson Valley, north of 287, there really hasn't been very much.
No, there has not. In fact, my daughter is not very happy with me. She was supposed to babysit today up in the New Paltz area. That's in Ulster County. I live in Putnam County, and I told her, no, I don't think you should go. And my wife kept her at home because she figured, well, she was going to need the snowblower or use the snowblower this afternoon or evening, and needed someone to help or assist her in that regard. And as of, I spoke to the house about 20 minutes ago, there is maybe a very light coating of snow on the edges of the driveway. And that's when my daughter called and said, can I go home now? Can I go back to New Paltz?
You are how many miles north of where we are, roughly?
About 25.
25 miles. So we have about 4 inches out here on the colder surfaces anyway. So for 25 miles, you go from almost just a coating to 4 inches, and then you head down into parts of New York City, and there are some 6, 7, and 8-inch amounts showing up in some places.
Yeah, but the question is, and a lot of these people who take these measurements are for the most part trained observers or know how to make measurements. And if you're making measurements, you're probably doing it not on the street or the sidewalk. You're probably making it on a colder surface, maybe grass or excuse me, some place where the snow will more readily accumulate. And I'm sure that somebody in the Bronx, for example, I mentioned Morris Park, they had almost 6.5 inches. Somebody in the Bronx is probably going to say, I didn't see 6.5 inches in front of my house.
Right.
It didn't look like that at all. What are they talking about? Well, the 6.5 inches was made
at somebody else's house.
Yeah.
Clearly, that's how it works. Here's the HRRR model for the overnight, and that rotation continues. This actually, I got to go back a run because this model comes out every hour, so they just started a new series. But on the run right before this, you can see how the snow lingers along the coast right till about 5 to 7 a.m. and then it finally pulls out. So we've got a little bit more to go here in terms of precip, total precip that it's giving in the overnight. It looks like another 4 or 5 tenths of liquid for Long Island and half an inch or more for coastal New Jersey. You can see the amounts are much less as you go north and west of New York City.
Right, and of course those of our viewers who saw me do that forecast for the lower Hudson Valley for the overnight hours, I mentioned that for the lower Hudson Valley, maybe another inch or 3 on top of what has already fallen, which ironically for some places hasn't seen anything at all. So 1 to 3 might be the final total, and for places like Ulster County and Orange County and whatever. And I would have thought that a lot of people would have been happy that they did not get the massive amounts of snow that were alluded to or suggested.
Well, I think most sane people are.
But I guess other people, well, like for example, somebody wrote on Facebook to me, said, "Boy, if I did as bad a job as you did today, I'd be fired the next day, or I'd be shining shoes or something." It's a tough business, folks, and sometimes
we deal with we. I can't tell you how that annoys me.
Well,
look.
Well, we've both been through it many times over the last.
But we deal with what we do. We deal with uncertainty, and we deal with forecasting change. We are trying to not only forecast change, but the change is always changing. We have to stay on top of it.
Right.
Look, if anybody thinks that they can do it, help yourself. Really help yourself.
Yeah.
And I always, when I get the joke. When people, sometimes I'll get the jokes as, "Oh, I wish I could get a job where I could be wrong 90% of the time, and still get paid." And I always respond to that by saying, and it's usually guys, so this response works. I said, well, you know what? That with that kind of success rate right now, I wish I were your urologist. And usually when I say that, it shuts them up.
Oh.
You know, the response back at that point, oh, I wasn't talking about you. It's all the other people that are wrong 90% of the time. You're right almost all the time. Okay. Kick save and a beauty.
Yeah.
I pulled up the GFS just to show in the west, by the way. There's a big storm coming into the west with a lot of heavy rain on the order of many inches in the mountains of California. And as we go through time, you know, they're going to get pounded. We also have precip that's going to break out of the northern plains, but notice that it kind of builds to the southeast. It doesn't turn up the east coast, and that's good. So I think, you know, I want to just take a look. We haven't really done too much with respect to the long range, but I think we can safely say that there are there better not be any other nor'easters in the cards. But going forward, all the action now seems to be shifting into the west. We do actually have a little vigorous system here that moves into the middle Mississippi Valley, Joe, on Saturday, but that's going to get squashed underneath us. And they may get some snow in Virginia, North Carolina, and on up through southern West Virginia and southern Ohio, but this is not going to turn up the East Coast,
yes.
Thankfully.
For all of you out there who might be in your early life, and maybe still are, pro wrestling fans, I'm talking about somebody of, you know, this goes back in the day or whatever, back in the 60s or 70s. I was growing up. I had openly admitted, I used to watch Channel 5 and Channel 9 on Thursday nights and Saturday night or whatever like that, watch the pro wrestling matches. There was one wrestler, his name was Haystacks Calhoun. He was 601 pounds. And here's how Haystacks would defeat his opponent. He would do the big splash. He would leap up and he'd splash on top of them. And then he would sit on them, and that's how he would win the matches. Think of this high pressure system building in over the weekend as Haystacks Calhoun, and the Storm that we originally were thinking about for Sunday as the opponent. Literally, that high pressure cell is going to do a Haystacks Calhoun and sit over the eastern seaboard and force or squash that storm well to our south. And thank goodness that that's going to be the case, because that means that we don't have to worry even about flurries on Sunday. It looks like the weekend will be high and dry with sunshine. Still on the chilly side. It is, after all, a high pressure system from eastern Canada, so it's a rather chilly or cold air mass into the mid and low 40s. It should be in the low 50s, but I don't think any of us is going to complain, considering that the weekend will be fair with no major problems in terms of storminess, as was the case, as it appeared to be the case a few days ago.
Just looking at the upper air, Joe, real quick, it looks like the blocking pattern's broken down. We actually get into a nice ridge here in the eastern states next week, so we should warm up for a couple of days, which will be nice. And then it really doesn't look to be all that menacing here in the long term. That ridge actually pops up again during the first week of Easter, and then after that gets a little messy up in Canada. But you know what? That's 2 weeks from now. At this point, I'm just glad that this string of nor'easters seems to be over with.
Right, and there were people who were asking, you know, I know one of our news anchors was asking one of the heads of the local electrical companies, have you ever seen a situation like this, like a winter storm where so many winter storms have occurred consecutively over a short span of time? And the woman he was interviewing said, no, I don't even remember that. But you and I remember the winter of '78, where we had 3 storms. The first one was an ice storm. The second was a moderate snowfall, the winter rain. The third was an unexpected snowstorm, which was supposed to be more rain than snow.
Right.
Then a few days after that, a blizzard hit the Ohio Valley and brought
and then we had
rain
the blizzard of '78.
And then after that, we had the blizzard of '78. So if you look back on that, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, we had 5 major winter storms to deal with over a span of less than a month.
It does happen.
And it does happen.
It does happen.
The illusion that it may be something else, I don't even want to get into that. It's controversial, but...
leave it be. For another night, I don't have the strength to argue. Big L got 7 in the Bronx. And Joyce Mack said she got about 6 inches on the New Jersey shore, with still some more to get through because it's going to snow through most of the night. James Vitale got 5 to 7 inches. Tell me just, James, remind me where you are, please. I'd appreciate it. Joshua Pan, You were talking about D.C. before. I'm just kind of curious what you got over there. And Alcida Al-Wazali, who is actually, she's not far from where I live. Zero visibility and ice slips. So I noticed on the radar a big heavy snow band coming into Long Island. So they must be, as you and I like to call it, S-plussing. Eric P., where do we find official snow totals? You answer that.
Well, they're not official. They come from all different places. Observers who have been trained, sky-worn observers who know how to do the measurement precisely, but also from people who just step outside and stick a yardstick or a ruler in the snow and report it to the National Weather Service. If you go to the National Weather Service website, that's nwsupton.org, I believe, or you can Google it and just simply say National Weather Service, New York City, and that's how you can also get there. On the list of on their menu, there's a box that says Submit a Storm Report, and you click on that, and you can actually send a storm report for your neighborhood to the National Weather Service, and if they find it credible, they will put it on the list. And the list comes out. They always stress that the listing is unofficial, but if you're a sky-worn observer, or if you're somebody who's identified as an experienced observer, you can bet that that's probably a good idea what the actual measurements are. Sometimes you see crazy measurements, like in a place that generally had like 4 or 5 inches. All of a sudden somebody comes up with like 8 or 9, and you say, how the heck could that possibly be? Sometimes they feel the need to print it or post everybody, but that's how you do it. You just go to the National Weather Service website, NWS Upton, New York.
Well, yeah, go to weather.gov/OKX for New York, for Upton, which is for New York City, and weather.gov/PHI for Philadelphia, and for Mount Holly, which covers Philadelphia and southern New Jersey. Weather.gov/BOX for Boston, or you could do it the easy way. Just go to weather.gov and click on the geographic area you want, and you go into their particular office and get the data. Fallen Angel wants to know, with respect to the weather that the weathers that you and I do for TV. She wanted to know whether we memorized all that, or is it ad-libbed? If we had to memorize it, Fallen Angel, I think we'd be gone off this earth.
There are two things about about your local television weathercaster that I should point out. Number one, the meteorologist is the only one on your local news team that has the hardest job of all. All the other people behind that anchor desk are telling you what has already happened, be it the news guy or the sports guy or the financial guy. They tell you what has already taken place. The meteorologist is the only person at the news desk or in front of the weather desk that has to predict the future in one way, shape, or form. And the other thing is that the meteorologist is the only one who has to get up and actually physically walk over and stand in front of the maps. It's almost like doing a PowerPoint presentation, and we're the only ones that do not have a use of the teleprompter, because we don't need it. Everything does indeed come off. What you saw there was just pretty much off the top of our heads. And it takes a little while to get used to the green screen or the blue screen or whatever, and it takes a little time to be able to do that. But I don't know about you, but having done radio first before getting into television, there are weather patterns that come up on a regular basis, and it's almost like a Rolodex in my head. Or
it's kind of how it works.
Or sorting out Kodachrome slides in your head or whatever. And the fact that if you love what you're doing, and if you know what you're doing, and can explain it without going blah 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 blah, that's how we do it.
She also asks, and I can answer this quick. The K models with the KM on it. Okay, so you have the NAM 12 kilometer. That's what the KM stands for, and the NAM 3 kilometer. And what those describe the data grids that those models use. Just picture grids, a series of squares all connected. Well, on the NAM 12 kilometer, on each point of the square, is a data point. Okay, the 3 kilometer is and it's 12 kilometers from each data point. On the 3 kilometer, it's 3 kilometers from each data point. Now, the 3 kilometer has more data in it, so you might think, well, that should make it the better model, and that's not necessarily the case. The 3 kilometer model with more data is supposed to work better in situations where you've got like the mesoscale stuff going, the small scale stuff like thunderstorms, tornadoes, and that kind of thing. Whereas the 12 kilometer is better with more the broad systems and the precip. And so for some things, the 12 kilometer works better in situations like this. The 3 kilometer should work better with cold front, severe weather, and thunderstorms. But we use them both for both purposes. So that's what the kilometer thing is. And
then to make it more simplified, back when we were just getting into this, when we got our feet wet back in the 70s, we used a model called the LFM, the Limited Fine Mesh. And that was the most rudimentary of all computer models. It has been out now, it's been obsolete now for maybe 30 years or so. But comparing, Joe talked about grids, compared to some of the supercomputer models that we have available today, back then, back in the 70s, the LFM, which was then the state-of-the-art computer model, was kind of like if you look at a chicken wire. And today, some of the supercomputer models are more like the kind of screen that you put on your front door to keep the insects out. Much smaller and much tighter. And of course, the smaller and more tighter the grid, generally the more accurate at least you would hope, the more accurate the forecast. Although even with these much tighter grids today, we end up with problems like we've had these last couple of days.
Joshua Pan points out that for Washington, D.C., they had to wait till the first full day of spring to get their biggest snowfall of the winter. 3.5 inches in Fairfax County to the west of D.C., 5.2 inches at Dulles, and 4 inches at Reagan Airport. Amazing that they didn't get very much during the winter times. They had to wait to the first day of the day after the first day of spring to get your biggest snowfall.
Well, I mean, back a few years ago when Boston had something like 105 inches of snow for the winter season, I mean, we had a fair amount of snow here in the tri-state area. I think it was more like 40 or 50 inches, but it was not 105 inches, and Boston's not overly far from us. So, you know, you can get these big differences in snowfalls each winter from one city to the next. But this was, as we pointed out yesterday, the first time in quite some time that there were winter storm warnings and watches posted all the way from Washington and Baltimore through Philadelphia, New York, and on up to Beantown.
I think it's time we call it a night, don't you?
I want to go to sleep.
Yeah, so do I.
Are
we going to do Facebook tonight?
That's totally up to you. Or
do you feel up to it?
I don't care.
All right, so you know what, folks? We're going to continue this conversation on Facebook in about 5 minutes or so, or a little bit less.
We'll get a drink of water.
Yeah, thanks for being here tonight. We'll be back tomorrow at probably the usual time, unless I decide to take a day off, which is entirely possible since I am so mentally fried. I need a break, but I always say that and then I wind up doing it anyway. So stay safe, everybody. Some more snow to go through the overnight before it's all out of here tomorrow morning. Can't end soon enough for me, the way I feel, and I think for you too. We'll see you tomorrow.